The transport shuttle landed on station terminus with a soft hiss. Inside, Jiho sat quietly in his seat, watching through the small window as alien students gathered on the landing platform. They were massive. Some had 4 arms, others had scales that looked harder than steel, and a few seemed to be made of living crystal. Jiho took a deep breath and picked up his small bag. When he stepped off the shuttle, silence fell across the platform. Hundreds of alien eyes turned to look at him. He was small compared to them. His shoulders were narrow, his eyes pointed downward, and he walked with careful steps that made no sound. The whispers started immediately. "That is the human?" A voice rumbled from somewhere in the crowd. "They sent us a child," another said with what sounded like laughter. Commander Vexenal stood at the front of the gathering. He was a Krathian, covered in black scales that reflected light like polished stone. His eyes were yellow and sharp. He looked down at Jiho and his mouth twisted into something between a smile and a sneer. "Welcome to the Galactic Combat Academy, human," Vexenal said. His voice was deep and carried across the platform. "I hope you understand what you have entered. This is not a place for the weak or the frightened." Jiho bowed slightly. "Thank you, Commander. I will do my best." Several students laughed at this. Jiho kept his eyes down and followed a robotic guide toward the dormitory building. Behind him, he could hear the aliens making bets about how long he would last. Most said less than a week. His assigned room was small but clean. When he entered, his roommate was already there. Tokmar was of Relnath, which meant he had 4 arms and stood nearly 8 feet tall. His skin was gray and covered in small ridges. He looked at Jiho the way someone might look at an insect. "You are the human," Tokmar said. It was not a question. "Yes, my name is Jiho. It is nice to meet you." Tokmar turned away. "Stay on that side of the room. Do not touch my belongings. Do not speak to me unless necessary. Your kind does not belong here." Jiho nodded and began unpacking his few possessions. He had 3 sets of training clothes, all plain and worn. He had a small data pad with pictures of his family. He had nothing else. Tokmar watched him for a moment, then left the room without another word. That night, Jiho lay in his bed and stared at the ceiling. He could hear sounds from other rooms, fighting, laughter, challenges being made and accepted. The aliens here were warriors. They had been bred and trained for combat across generations. He was just a human from Earth, a planet that had barely achieved space travel. The first day of training began before sunrise. All students gathered in the main arena, a massive circular space with a floor made of some material that absorbed impacts. Instructor Kelvin stood in the center. She was a sylph, a species known for flexibility and speed. Her body seemed to have too many joints, and she moved in ways that looked impossible. "New students," she called out, her voice echoing. "Today you will be tested. We must see what you can do. Pair up with the student next to you." Jiho found himself standing next to Hera, another sylph. She was famous among the students. Last semester, she had sent 3 opponents to the medical bay in a single day. She looked at Jiho and smiled, showing too many teeth. "A human," she said softly. "I have never broken a human before." They walked to the center of the arena. Other students formed a circle around them. Jiho could feel their eyes on him. He bowed to Hera, a gesture of respect he had learned as a child. "Please," he said quietly, "I do not want trouble." Hera laughed. It was not a kind sound. "Then you came to the wrong place, soft thing?" Instructor Kelvin raised her hand. "Begin." Hera moved like lightning. Her leg came up in a kick that would have shattered Jiho's ribs. But when her foot arrived, Jiho was not there. He had shifted to the side, just barely, his movement so small that some students thought he had not moved at all. Hera's kick hit empty air. She spun and attacked again, faster this time. A punch aimed at his face, then another at his stomach, then a sweep at his legs. Each attack missed by inches. Jiho moved like water, flowing around her strikes. His face remained calm. His breathing was steady. "Stop running!" Hera snarled. She was angry now. Her attacks became wilder, more aggressive. "I am not running," Jiho said. His voice was still quiet, but something in it made Hera pause. She launched herself at him with everything she had. It was a killing strike, the kind that had put students in medical comas. Jiho stepped forward instead of back. His hand touched her wrist, gentle as a falling leaf, and her momentum changed direction. Hera found herself stumbling past him, off balance, confused. The timer buzzed. The match was over. Instructor Kelvin looked at her datapad, then at Jiho, then at Hera. "Draw," she announced. Both students remained standing. Both show acceptable defense. Hera was breathing hard. Jiho was not. The other students were silent now. They had expected to see the human destroyed in seconds. Instead, they had watched him survive Hera without taking a single hit. More than that, he had survived without throwing a single punch dot as Jiho walked back to the edge of the arena. He passed Commander Vexenal. The Krathian was watching him with narrow eyes. "Interesting," Vexenal said. It did not sound like a compliment. Over the next few days, Jiho attended every class. He spoke rarely. He kept his eyes down. During meals, he sat alone in the corner of the cafeteria while other students gathered in loud groups, trading stories of fights and victories. At night, Takmar ignored him completely, treating him like he did not exist, but Jiho trained. In the early mornings before classes started, he would go to the empty training rooms. He moved through forms and exercises, his body flowing from one position to another. His movements were precise and controlled. Sometimes other students would pass by and see him through the windows. They would stop and watch for a moment before moving on. During combat drills, instructors began to notice things. In grappling class, Jiho escaped holds that should have been impossible for someone with only 2 arms. In striking class, his body mechanics were perfect even when learning techniques from species with completely different body structures. In weapons training, he picked up alien combat tools and used them as if he had trained with them for years. One instructor, a massive Gorath named Instructor Breck, pulled Jiho aside after class. "You," Breck said, his voice like grinding stones. "You have fought before." Jiho nodded. "Yes, instructor. Where? How much?" "On Earth," Jiho said. "Since I was 5 years old?" Breck's eyes widened slightly. "Your planet trains children in combat?" "Some families do." "Mine did. What style did they teach you?" Jiho paused. "Many styles, instructor. How many?" "I stopped counting at 20. Breck stared at him. Then he laughed, a sound like rocks falling down a mountain. "You are a strange creature, human." "Very strange." He walked away, shaking his massive head. That night, Jiho lay in his bed again. Takmar was already asleep, snoring softly. Through the window, Jiho could see the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, impossibly far away. He wondered if his family was looking at the same stars. He wondered if they worried about him. He closed his eyes and remembered his grandfather's words from long ago. "Do not show everything you know," the old man had said. "Watch and learn first. Understand your opponents before you reveal yourself." And Jiho had been watching. He had been learning. The academy taught combat styles from dozens of alien species. But as he watched, he realized something. The aliens did not know how similar their fighting styles were to Earth's martial arts. The Krathian power strikes were like Muay Thai, the Vrelnith grappling was like Judo, the self-flexibility techniques were like Capoeira. Earth had spent thousands of years fighting itself. Every culture had developed ways to hurt and defend. Humanity had created more martial arts than any species in the galaxy, not because humans were better warriors, but because they had more reasons to fight each other. Now Jiho was here, carrying all of that knowledge in his body and mind. And slowly, the galaxy was beginning to notice. Weeks passed at the Galactic Combat Academy. Jiho fell into a routine. He woke before the artificial dawn. He trained alone in empty rooms. He attended classes and listened carefully. He ate by himself. He spoke only when spoken to. Other students stopped noticing him after a while. He became part of the background, just another quiet presence in the hallways, but the instructors noticed. They always noticed. Master Instructor Tolvek, taught advanced Relnith grappling. His species had perfected the art over 30,000 years. 4 arms meant 4 grips, 4 controls, 4 ways to manipulate an opponent's body. The techniques were considered impossible for species with only 2 arms to master during class. Tolvek demonstrated a complex lock that used all 4 limbs simultaneously. This position is the foundation of Relnith combat philosophy, he explained, his 4 hands moving in perfect coordination. It requires perfect balance and understanding of leverage points. He released his training dummy and looked at the class. Pair up. 2-armed species will modify the technique by using leg hooks to compensate. Begin. Jiho partnered with a Krathian student named Vixer. The Krathian was strong but slow. When they grappled, Jiho moved smoothly into position. His arms controlled Vixer's upper body while his legs, wrapped around in a pattern that looked exactly like the 4-armed technique Tolvek had demonstrated. Tolvek walked between pairs, correcting form and offering advice. When he reached Jiho, he stopped. He watched for a full minute without speaking. Jiho had Vixer completely controlled. The Krathian could not move any of his limbs. The position was identical to the master demonstration. Release, Tolvek said quietly. Jiho let go immediately and stood, bowing to his partner. Vixer climbed to his feet, looking confused and slightly embarrassed. Tolvek's S4 eyes focused on Jiho. You, human, what is your name? Jiho, Master Instructor. Jiho, you have trained in Relnith grappling before? No, Master Instructor. Then how do you know this technique? It took our best students months to learn the modified 2-armed version. Jiho hesitated. On my planet, we have something similar. We call it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And Judo, the principles are the same. Control the center of gravity. Use the legs as additional limbs. Turn the opponent's strength against them. Tolvek's mandibles clicked together, a sign of deep thought among his people. Your planet developed this independently? Yes, Master Instructor. And many other grappling arts, Sambo, catch wrestling. Shui Jiao, each culture on Earth created their own version? Many versions, Tolvek repeated. We have one, perfected over millennia. You have many, yes, Master Instructor. Tolvek walked away, still clicking his mandibles. The other students stared at Jiho. Vixer looked at him with new respect, and perhaps a little fear. 2 days later, Jiho attended Krathian striking class. Instructor Zeikthan was a legend at the academy. He had fought in 3 galactic wars and never lost a single combat. His scales were crossed with scars that told stories of 100 battles. When he moved, every motion was economical and precise. Power comes from the ground, Zeikthan announced, demonstrating a devastating punch. Up through the legs, through the hips, through the shoulders, into the target. One unbroken chain of force. He hit a training dummy. The impact echoed through the room like thunder. The dummy, designed to withstand incredible force, cracked down the middle. This is Krathian striking. This is how warriors break their enemies. He pointed at different students. You, show me. One by one, students attempted the technique. Some came close. Most failed completely. Their punches were strong, but lacked the perfect coordination Zeikthan had demonstrated. You, human, step forward. Jiho walked to the front of the class. He stood before a fresh training dummy. It was twice his size. Show me Krathian striking, Zeikthan commanded. Jiho bowed. He took a stance, feet shoulder-width apart. He took one breath. Then he struck. The punch looked simple. No wasted movement. The power flowed exactly as Zeikthan had described, ground to legs to hips to shoulders to fist. The impact was not as loud as the instructor's, but the training dummy rocked backward and a visible dent appeared in its surface. Zeikthan approached slowly. He examined the dummy. He examined Jiho's stance. He walked in a circle around the small human, studying him from every angle. Your form is nearly perfect, Zeikthan said finally. Your hip rotation matches Krathian anatomy despite your different skeletal structure. Your breathing synchronization is advanced level. How long have you studied our art? This is my first Krathian striking class, instructor. Impossible. On Earth, we have similar techniques: boxing, Muay Thai, karate, Wing Chun, many styles that teach the same principle. Power from the ground delivered through proper body mechanics. Ziegfen's eyes narrowed. You claim your planet has multiple arts equivalent to Krathian striking? Not equivalent, instructor, different but built on the same foundation. Humans have been hitting each other for a very long time. We learned what works. The instructor was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Continue training, human. I will be watching you. After class, Jiho walked back to his dormitory. As he moved through the corridors, he noticed other students watching him now. The whispers had changed. Before they called him weak and timid. Now they called him something else, strange, unusual, dangerous. He entered his room to find Takmar there, which was rare at this hour. The big Vrelnath was polishing his training equipment. He looked up when Jiho entered. The instructors talk about you, Takmar said. It was the first time he had spoken directly to Jiho in weeks. I am just a student like everyone else. No, you are not. Takmar set down his equipment. Tolvek says you perform Vrelnath techniques perfectly with only 2 arms. Ziegfen says your striking form is advanced level after 1 class. Other instructors say similar things. What are you? Jiho sat on his bed. I am human. That is all. That is not all. Humans are new to the galaxy. Your species just achieved faster than light travel 50 years ago? You have no warrior tradition. No combat history. You should be the weakest students here. But you are not. My planet has combat history, Jiho said quietly. More than you know. Takmar stood. His forearms crossed over his chest. Explain. Jiho looked at his roommate. He thought about his grandfather's advice. Do not show everything you know. But the secret was already coming out. The instructors had seen too much. Earth has 7 billion humans, Jiho began. We have hundreds of countries, thousands of cultures. And for our entire history, we fought each other. Every culture developed ways to fight because they needed to survive against other humans. We created thousands of martial arts. Some focus on striking, some on grappling, some on weapons, some on multiple opponents, some for armored combat, some for no weapons at all. Thousands, Takmar repeated. That is impossible. It is true. Humans are good at 2 things, creating art and creating ways to hurt each other. Sometimes we combine both into martial arts, and you learn thousands of fighting styles. Not thousands, maybe 30 or 40. But once you learn enough, you start to see the patterns. You understand that all fighting is about the same things: balance, timing, distance, leverage, and angles. The Krathian punch and the human boxing punch use the same physics. The Vrelnath grappling and human judo use the same principles of leverage. Takmar sat back down, all 4 hands pressed against his head. This means humans could learn any species' fighting art. Probably. If given time, this means humans could become the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. Jiho shook his head. It means humans spent too much time fighting themselves. We are not superior. We are just experienced in violence. Takmar was silent for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Less hostile. More curious. Will you teach me? Teach you what? Human fighting arts. I want to learn what makes you different. Jiho smiled for the first time since arriving at the academy. I would be honored. That night, Jiho taught Takmar a simple boxing combination. Jab, cross, hook. Basic human striking. The big Vrelnath was clumsy at first, trying to use all 4 arms simultaneously. But Jiho showed him how to add the extra arms as follow-up strikes. Creating combinations no pure human boxer could perform, they trained for 2 hours. Other students walked past the open door and stopped to watch. Word spread quickly through the dormitory. The timid human was teaching advanced combat techniques to a Vrelnath. Over the following weeks, more students approached Jiho. Quietly, privately, they asked questions. They wanted to understand human martial arts. They wanted to know how one species could have so many different fighting styles. Jiho taught them. Small lessons, nothing formal. He showed a Sylph student how capoeira used flexibility and acrobatics. He demonstrated Wing Chun's close-range efficiency to a Gorath who thought only power mattered. He explained ground fighting principles to students who had never considered combat from their backs, but Jiho remained quiet and polite in public. He still kept his eyes down. He still spoke softly. He still avoided confrontation whenever possible. To outsiders, he looked like the same timid student who had arrived weeks ago, only now everyone knew it was an act. Or perhaps not an act. Perhaps Jiho truly was gentle and kind and preferred peace. But underneath that gentleness was something else: knowledge, skill, the accumulated wisdom of a species that had been fighting itself for thousands of years. The instructors held a private meeting about him. They discussed what to do about the human who was quietly revolutionizing their understanding of combat. Some wanted to restrict him. Others wanted to learn from him. All of them agreed on one thing: Jiho was the most dangerous student the Galactic Combat Academy had ever seen. And he had barely begun to show what he could do. The announcement came during morning assembly. Commander Vexenal stood on the elevated platform, his black scales gleaming under the artificial lights. His voice carried across the gathered students like rolling thunder. "In 2 weeks, the Galactic Combat Tournament begins," he said. "This tournament has been held for 300 years. It tests everything you have learned. Every species sends their finest students. Champions are remembered forever. Failures are forgotten immediately." The students erupted in excited whispers. The tournament was legendary. Winning meant honor for your entire species. Losing meant shame. "All students will participate," Vexenal continued. "No exceptions. Matches will be random. Combat will be full contact. Medical teams will stand by." His yellow eyes scanned the crowd and landed on Jiho. "Even the weak must fight. Even those who prefer peace must face violence." Jiho stood quietly among the other students. He felt their eyes on him. Since word had spread about his training sessions and his performance in classes, students looked at him differently. Some with respect, some with suspicion, some with fear. He preferred when they ignored him. That evening, another human found Jiho in one of the training rooms. Her name was Dayan. She had arrived at the academy 3 weeks after Jiho, but had mostly kept to herself. She was taller than him, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "You have been hiding," she said. Entering the room without knocking, Jiho was practicing forms, moving through a sequence that blended several different martial arts. He stopped and turned to face her. "I have not been hiding. I have been training. Same thing." Dayan sat on a bench and watched him. "The other students talk about you constantly. They say you can learn any fighting style just by watching it once. They say you defeated Hera without throwing a single punch. They say you are secretly a master warrior pretending to be timid. I am not pretending anything." "I know. That is what makes you interesting." She stood and walked closer. "I have been watching you too. Not just in classes, in the hallways, in the cafeteria. The way you move, the way you breathe, the way you position yourself even when you think no one is looking. You are always ready, always aware, always balanced." Jiho said nothing. "I studied Taekwondo for 12 years on Earth," Dayan continued. "I thought I was good. Then I came here and realized alien combat arts use principles I never considered." "But you already know those principles. How?" "I had good teachers. That is not an answer." Jiho was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "My grandfather was a martial arts collector. He studied every fighting style he could find. Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Brazilian, Russian, Filipino, Israeli. He learned from masters all over Earth, and he taught me. He said humans should understand all forms of combat because we never know what kind of fight we might face." "Your grandfather was preparing you for this," Dayan said. "For the galaxy?" "No, he died before humanity reached the stars." "He was preparing me for Earth, for humans fighting humans?" He never imagined I would fight aliens. But his teaching works anyway. Yes, because fighting is universal. Bodies move according to physics. Balance is balance. Leverage is leverage. It does not matter if you have 2 arms or 4 scales or skin. The principles stay the same. Dayan smiled. Good, then you will win the tournament. I do not want to win the tournament. Why not? Because winning means attention. Attention means expectations. I did not come to the academy to become a champion. I came to learn. You might not have a choice, Dayan said. Once the tournament starts, everyone will see what you can do. You cannot hide anymore. She was right. Jiho knew she was right. The tournament would reveal everything. 2 weeks later, the tournament began. Thousands of spectators filled the arena. Students from a dozen species prepared for combat. Betting pools formed. Favorites were chosen. Jiho was not among the favorites. Most gamblers gave him a 20% chance of surviving the first round. The matches were organized by combat weight and species. Compatibility. Jiho's first opponent was announced. Carvex. A Goroth heavy champion. The Goroth were the most physically powerful species in the galaxy. They were 8 feet tall, covered in armored skin that could stop most weapons, and possessed strength that could bend metal. Carvex had won every tournament match he had entered for the past 2 years. He had never been defeated. When the match was announced, the betting pools adjusted. Jiho's survival odds dropped to 5%. Several students suggested canceling the match because it would just be an execution, but Commander Vexenal refused. All students fight, he said. Without exception. Jiho and Carvex entered the arena. The Goroth looked down at the small human and laughed. It was not a cruel laugh, exactly. More like genuine amusement at the absurdity of the match. You are brave, little human, Carvex said, his voice like grinding stone. I will make your death quick. Jiho bowed. Thank you for the match. The starting signal sounded. Carvex charged immediately. He moved like a landslide, all momentum and power. His massive fist came down like a hammer. If it connected, it would crush Jiho completely. But Jiho was not there. He had moved, a simple sidestep, minimal wasted energy. The fist struck the arena floor with a sound like thunder. Cracks spread from the impact point. Carvex swung again. A backhand that would have broken a concrete wall. Jiho ducked under it, close enough that the Goroth's arm brushed his hair. As he ducked, his hand touched Carvex's knee. A light touch. Barely any force at all. The Goroth's leg buckled slightly. Not enough to fall, but enough to notice. Carvex looked down, confused. What did you do? Jiho said nothing. He circled slowly, always moving, never in one place long enough to be targeted. Carvex attacked again and again. Each attack was devastating. Each attack hit nothing but air. And each time Jiho evaded, he touched the Goroth somewhere. A pressure point on the arm. A nerve cluster on the thigh. A joint in the shoulder. None of the touches seemed to do anything significant. But slowly, Carvex began to slow down. His attacks became less precise. His footwork became sloppy. He was breathing hard, confused, and frustrated. Stop running, he roared. I am not running, Jiho said calmly. I am fighting. Carvex launched himself forward with everything he had. It was a killing blow, illegal in the tournament rules, but done anyway. Jiho did not evade this time. Instead, he stepped forward to meet the charge. His hands moved in a pattern too fast to follow clearly. He struck Carvex 6 times in 3 seconds. Each strike hit a specific point. Nerve clusters. Pressure points. Disruption targets. The Goroth's charge stopped as if he had hit an invisible wall. He stood there, swaying slightly. Then his legs gave out and he fell forward. The impact shook the arena. Carvex tried to stand but could not. His limbs would not respond correctly. What did you do to me? He gasped, double quotes, QSHO-JITCU, Jiho said quietly. Pressure point striking. The damage is temporary. Your nervous system will recover in a few hours? The medical team rushed forward. Commander Vexenol declared Jiho the winner. The arena was silent. Everyone had expected to see the human destroyed in seconds. Instead, they had watched him dismantle a Gorath champion without taking a single hit. Jiho walked back to the waiting area. Students moved out of his way. No one spoke to him. No one knew what to say. His second match was 2 days later, against Hera, the sylph who had fought him on his first day. She had trained specifically for this rematch. She had studied human anatomy. She had prepared counters to everything Jiho had shown in their first match. When they faced each other in the arena, Hera smiled. I know your tricks now, human. You will not embarrass me again. I never meant to embarrass you, Jiho said. I only meant to survive. The match began. Hera moved like water, her body bending and flowing in ways that seemed impossible. She was faster than before, more aggressive. Her attacks came from unexpected angles. Using her flexibility to strike from positions no other species could achieve, Jiho met her with capoeira, the Brazilian martial art that used dance-like movements and acrobatics. He flowed around her attacks, spinning and rolling, his body moving in rhythms that matched her flexibility. When she struck high, he was low. When she attacked from the left, he was on the right. Then he switched styles. Wing Chun, a close-range art that used rapid hand strikes and trapping techniques. Hera found herself too close to use her flexibility advantage. Her long-range attacks were neutralized. She tried to create distance, but Jiho stayed with her, his hands controlling her arms, limiting her options. Then he switched again. Systema, a Russian martial art that emphasized adaptability and using the opponent's force against them. Hera's attacks began to work against her. Each strike she threw left her slightly off balance. Each technique she used created an opening. How many fighting styles do you know? She asked, breathing hard. Enough, Jiho replied. The match ended when Hera's exhaustion overcame her skill. She collapsed to one knee, unable to continue. Jiho helped her stand and bowed deeply. You are an excellent fighter, he told her. Your skill is remarkable. Hera looked at him with something between respect and confusion. You fought me like 3 different opponents. All fighting is the same conversation, Jiho said. Just different languages. He won his next 3 matches the same way. Against each opponent he adapted. He used styles they had never seen. He combined techniques in ways that should not work but did. A Krathian striker met with Muay Thai. A Vrelnath grappler faced with Judo and Sambo. A weapons expert encountered Kali and Kenjutsu. The tournament advanced. Jiho kept winning. The betting pool stopped accepting bets on his matches because the odds had become meaningless. Students stopped underestimating him. They stopped seeing a timid human and started seeing something else entirely. In the dormitory, Takmar asked him, How far can you go? Can you win the entire tournament? I do not know, Jiho answered honestly. I have not fought the commander yet. Vexenol is in the finals, Takmar said. If you keep winning, you will face him. I know. He is the greatest warrior in the academy. Perhaps the greatest in the galaxy. He has never lost a match. Everyone loses eventually. Not Vexenol. Jiho did not respond. He laid on his bed and thought about his grandfather. The old man had taught him to be humble, to avoid conflict when possible, to use violence only as a last resort. But he had also taught him to be ready, to understand that sometimes the best way to prevent violence was to be so skilled that others chose not to fight you. The tournament continued. Jiho advanced through every round. His reputation grew with each victory. Students who had ignored him now studied his every movement. Instructors analyzed his techniques. The entire academy watched and wondered about the quiet human who had mastered every combat art he encountered, and in his private chambers, Commander Vexenol watched the recordings of Jiho's matches. He watched them over and over, studying every technique, every movement, every choice the human made. Interesting, he said to himself. Very interesting indeed. The tournament finals were 3 days away. Jiho had advanced through every round without losing a single match. His opponent would be Commander Vexenal himself. The news spread across the entire station. This was unprecedented. A student, especially a human student, reaching the finals was shocking enough. Facing the commander was almost unthinkable. 2 days before the final match, Jiho received a message on his datapad. Report to Commander Vexenal's office immediately. He went without hesitation. The commander's office was simple but intimidating. Weapons from a dozen worlds hung on the walls. Battle honors and awards filled display cases. Behind a large desk sat Vexenal, his black scales catching the light, his yellow eyes fixed on Jiho as he entered. Sit, Vexenal commanded. Jiho sat in the chair across from the desk. He kept his back straight, his hands folded in his lap, his expression calm. Vexenal studied him for a long moment before speaking. You disturb me, human. I apologize, Commander. That was never my intention. I know. That makes it worse. Vexenal stood and walked to the wall of weapons. He touched a Krathian blade, ancient and perfectly maintained. Do you know how long my species has practiced our martial art? I have read it as over 50,000 years, Commander. Correct. 50,000 years of refinement. One art, one tradition. Every Krathian warrior learns the same techniques, perfected across countless generations. We achieve mastery through focus and dedication to a single path. Vexenal turned back to Jiho. The Vrelnath are the same. One art refined over 30,000 years. The Sylph have their tradition, 20,000 years old. Every species in this galaxy has one martial art, one answer to the question of combat. We perfect that answer until it becomes absolute. He walked slowly around his desk, approaching Jiho. But your species, you have how many martial arts? The exact number is debated, Commander. Some count over 100 distinct styles. Others claim thousands if you include regional variations. Thousands, Vexenal repeated. The word seemed to taste bitter in his mouth. This should make you weak, diluted, confused. A species that cannot decide on one answer to combat should lose to species that have perfected their single answer. And yet, and yet I keep winning, Jiho said quietly. Yes, you defeat warriors who have trained their entire lives in their species. Perfect art? You do this by knowing many imperfect arts? This contradicts everything I understand about combat mastery. Jiho was silent for a moment. Then he said, May I speak freely, Commander? You may. Every species here has one martial art because every species achieved unity early in their development. Krathians became one people. Vrelnath became one people. You had time to perfect single traditions because you were not fighting yourselves. Jiho stood, moving to look at the weapons on the wall. Humans are different. We never unified. Even now, with space travel and contact with aliens, Earth has hundreds of countries, thousands of cultures. We spent our entire history divided. Korean fought Chinese. Japanese fought Korean. Brazilian fought Brazilian. Every region, every culture developed their own fighting style because they needed to survive against other humans. He touched nothing, just looked at the alien weapons. Taekwondo came from Korea because of our mountains and fighting philosophy. Judo came from Japan because of their armored warriors. Muay Thai from Thailand, Krav Maga from Israel, Sambo from Russia. Each one was an answer to a specific problem. How do we defend ourselves? How do we survive? Vexenal listened without interrupting. So yes, Commander, humans have thousands of martial arts. Not because we are superior, but because we are fractured. Every style we created exists because humans were trying to hurt each other better than the last style. We are not masters of combat. We are experienced in violence because we never stopped being violent to ourselves. And this experience, Vexenal said slowly, makes you adaptable. Yes, when I see Krathian striking, I recognize the principles from Muay Thai and Karate. When I watch Vrelnath grappling, I see Judo and Sambo. Your species spent 50,000 years perfecting one answer. Humans spent 10,000 years creating thousands of imperfect answers. But those imperfect answers taught us to see patterns, to adapt, to understand that there is no one perfect way to fight, only many good ways depending on the situation. Vexenol returned to his desk. He sat heavily, his expression unreadable. This tournament is not just about you winning or losing. You understand that, yes? I believe so, Commander. If you defeat me, it sends a message to the entire galaxy. It says that human adaptability is superior to species-specific perfection. It says that Earth's fractured, violent history has created something more dangerous than 50,000 years of unified martial tradition. Is that true, Commander? I do not know. That is what disturbs me. Vexenol leaned forward. I am not afraid of losing to you, human. I am afraid of what your victory means. If one human with minimal formal training can defeat the best warriors of every species, what happens when Earth trains thousands of soldiers? What happens when your people truly weaponize your knowledge? Jiho met the commander's eyes. We become the most dangerous military force in the galaxy, or we become the best teachers. It depends on who leads us, and which do you think it will be? I do not know, Commander. I am just a student. Vexenol laughed. It was a short, sharp sound without much humor. Just a student who has defeated every opponent without serious injury to yourself or them, who uses violence efficiently but not excessively, who shows respect to every fighter you face. Just a student. He stood again. You may go. I will see you in 3 days. Jiho bowed and left. As he walked back to his dormitory, he felt the weight of the conversation. This was bigger than a tournament. This was about humanity's place in the galaxy. Everything he did now would be watched and judged. The next day, another human found him. Her name was Bael. She was in the Academy's Strategic Studies program, not combat training. She was small and wore reading glasses that made her look even younger than she was. I have been researching you, she said, sitting next to him in the cafeteria. That sounds concerning. It should be. Do you know what the other species are calling you now? I prefer not to listen to gossip. They call you the library. They say you contain every martial art ever created. Some students are afraid of you. Others want to study you like a specimen. The betting pools have stopped taking bets because no one will bet against you anymore. Jiho ate his food slowly. I am just trying to do my best. Your best is making the entire galaxy nervous, Bile said. I have been reading the communications between Academy leadership and their home governments. Earth is being discussed at the highest levels. Some species see humans as potential allies. Others see us as a threat that needs to be controlled before we become too powerful. Because I won some tournament matches? Because you represent what humanity is capable of. One human with no formal alien combat training has defeated champions from a dozen species. If you beat Vexenol, it proves that human adaptability is more valuable than alien perfection. That shifts the power balance. Jiho set down his eating utensils. I did not ask for this. I came to the Academy to learn, not to become a political symbol. Too late. You are a symbol whether you want to be or not. Bile pushed her glasses up. The question is what kind of symbol. If you win with cruelty and excessive violence, humanity looks like a threat. If you win with skill and respect, humanity looks like a potential teacher and ally. Everything you do matters now. That night, Jiho could not sleep. He kept thinking about his grandfather's lessons. The old man had taught him that martial arts were not about domination. They were about understanding. Understanding your body, your opponent, the space between you. Understanding that violence was a language, and like any language, it could be used to hurt or to communicate. He thought about every match he had won. He had not tried to humiliate his opponents. He had not used more force than necessary. He had simply done what was required to win while showing respect to every fighter he faced. Was that enough? Would the galaxy see him as a warrior or a teacher? The day of the final match arrived. The arena was filled beyond capacity. Students, instructors, and special guests from across the galaxy had come to watch. Cameras recorded everything to be broadcast to billions of viewers on hundreds of worlds. This was no longer just an Academy tournament. This was a galactic event. Jiho entered the arena wearing simple training clothes. No armor, no weapons, just his body and his knowledge. Across from him, Commander Vexenal entered wearing full Krathian ceremonial combat armor. He carried weapons blessed by war shamans, traditional tools that had been used by Krathian warriors for millennia. They stood facing each other. The arena fell completely silent. "Before we begin," Vexenal said, his voice amplified for all to hear, "I want to say something. This human has earned his place in this arena. Whatever happens today, know that he is a warrior worthy of respect." Jiho bowed deeply. "You honor me, Commander. I have learned much from you and from all my teachers here." The starting signal sounded. Vexenal moved immediately, demonstrating why he was considered the greatest warrior in the Academy. His technique was perfect. 50,000 years of Krathian martial refinement flowed through every movement. His strikes were devastating. His defense was impenetrable. His tactical sense was flawless. Jiho retreated. For the first time in the entire tournament, he was forced back, unable to find openings, unable to counter effectively. Vexenal was simply too skilled, too experienced, too perfect in his art. The commander's blade came within inches of Jiho's throat. The human twisted away at the last moment, barely avoiding a finishing strike. The crowd gasped. This was the first time anyone had come close to defeating Jiho, but as the match continued, something began to change. Jiho stopped retreating. He started watching more carefully. He began to recognize patterns. The Krathian art was perfect, yes, but perfection meant predictability. 50,000 years of refinement had eliminated all inefficiency, which meant it followed specific principles rigidly. Jiho had seen similar principles before. In Krav Maga, in Silat, in Kenjutsu. Different styles, same underlying patterns. And once he recognized the patterns, he could adapt. He began to counter. Not with Krathian techniques, but with combinations from multiple human styles. A Muay Thai angle combined with Krav Maga timing. A judo principle applied to a Silat movement. He became unpredictable because he was not following any single system. Vexenal's eyes widened. "You are learning my art while fighting me. I am seeing how it connects to what I already know," Jiho replied, breathing hard. "All combat is the same conversation, just different languages." The match intensified. Both fighters pushed themselves to their limits. The crowd watched in absolute silence, witnessing something unprecedented. A student matching a master. A human matching a Krathian. Adaptation meeting perfection. The final exchange came suddenly. Vexenal committed to a finishing technique, a traditional Krathian killing strike that had never been successfully countered in recorded history. Jiho responded with a combination that blended three different human martial arts in one flowing movement. They both connected. Vexenal's blade stopped at Jiho's throat. Jiho's hand stopped positioned over the nerve cluster that would paralyze the commander's entire body. Perfect mutual control. Neither could move without the other finishing the strike. They held the position for 3 heartbeats. Then both slowly released and stepped back. Vexenal lowered his weapon. This match is a draw. Both fighters demonstrated absolute skill. Both could have finished. Both chose restraint. He looked at Jiho with something that might have been respect or might have been concern. "But if I must name a victor, I name the human. He has taught me that mastery is not about perfecting one answer, but understanding all questions." The arena exploded in reaction, shock, amazement, celebration, concern, every emotion, playing across thousands of faces. Jiho stood quietly in the center, just trying to breathe. News of the tournament final spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications. Within hours, every major government, military organization, and educational institution knew about Jiho, the human who had matched Commander Vexenal, the student who had mastered combat arts from a dozen species. Without formal training in any of them, the reactions were immediate and varied. Some species saw opportunity. Others saw threat. Military analysts began calculating what it would mean if Earth trained armies using Jiho's adaptive approach. Diplomats debated whether humans should be welcomed as allies or contained as potential dangers. Philosophers argued about the meaning of perfection versus adaptability. Jiho became famous overnight. He did not want fame. He wanted to return to his quiet room and rest. But fame found him anyway. 3 days after the tournament, Jiho sat in the academy gardens. It was a quiet place, designed to help students meditate and recover between training sessions. Trees from different worlds grew together, creating a strange but peaceful environment. He sat on a bench and tried to center himself. Daeon found him there. She sat down without asking permission. "They want you to give speeches," she said. "The academy leadership. The Earth government. Everyone wants to hear from the human who defeated the galaxy's best warriors." "I did not defeat anyone. The final match was a draw." "That is not how the galaxy sees it. They see a human matching the greatest Krathian warrior in history. That is a victory for our species, whether you call it a draw or not." Jiho closed his eyes. "I just wanted to learn. That is all. I came here to understand alien combat arts, to see how they compared to human styles. I never wanted to prove anything about humanity." But you did prove something," Daeon said gently. "You proved that different does not mean weaker. You proved that Earth's messy, violent history created something valuable. You proved that humans belong here. At what cost? Now every species either fears us or wants to use us. That was going to happen eventually. Humans were always going to be judged by the galaxy. You just made sure we were judged based on skill and respect rather than weakness or irrelevance." Before Jiho could respond, another figure appeared. Bio walked quickly across the garden, her datapad clutched in her hands. "You need to see this," she said, slightly out of breath. "The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. They are discussing humanity's status in the galactic community. Your tournament performance has changed everything." She handed the datapad to Jiho. On the screen were official communications between governments. Some proposed inviting Earth to join military alliances. Others suggested restricting human access to advanced combat training. A few extreme voices called for monitoring or even controlling human martial arts development. "This is insane," Jiho said. "I won some fights at an academy. That does not represent all of humanity." "Actually, it does," Bile said. "You are the first human to attend the Galactic Combat Academy. Everything you do reflects on our entire species. Fair or not, you are humanity's representative." Over the following week, representatives from across the galaxy arrived at Station Terminus. They all wanted to meet Jiho. Some were respectful. Some were suspicious. All were curious about what made humans different. A Vrelnath general asked him to demonstrate human grappling techniques. A Sylph philosopher wanted to discuss the ethics of learning multiple fighting styles. A Krathian war council requested detailed information about Earth's martial arts history. Jiho tried to answer honestly, but every answer seemed to create more questions. Through all of this, Jiho remained quiet and polite. He did not boast. He did not threaten. He simply explained what he knew and answered questions as best as he could. Some representatives seemed disappointed that he was not more aggressive or impressive. They expected a fearsome warrior. They found a soft-spoken student who preferred peace to violence. Commander Vexenal watched these interactions carefully. One evening, he summoned Jiho again to his office. "You are handling this well," Vexenal said. "Better than I expected. I am just being myself, Commander." "That is what I mean." The galaxy expected Earth to send a weapon. Instead, Earth sent a teacher. That might be the wisest thing your planet has ever done. Vexenal walked to his window, looking out at the stars. "I have been thinking about our match. About what you said regarding human martial arts. You claim that humans created thousands of fighting styles because you were fractured and violent toward each other." "Yes, Commander. But I wonder if that is the complete truth. Yes, humans created many styles because you fought each other. But you also shared those styles. taught them, allowed them to spread across your planet. A Korean art became popular in Brazil. A Japanese art became popular in America. You did not keep your combat knowledge secret. You shared it freely. Jiho had never thought about it that way. I suppose that is true. That makes you unique, Vexnal continued. Krathians guard our martial secrets carefully. Only Krathians learn Krathian combat. The same is true for every species. We hoard our knowledge. But humans spread yours. Why? Giho thought carefully before answering. Perhaps because we knew that everyone would eventually learn it anyway. Humans fight each other constantly. If one group developed a powerful technique, others needed to learn it to survive. Secrecy was not possible, so we chose to teach openly instead. We turned combat knowledge into culture, into art, into sport. And now you bring that philosophy to the galaxy, Vexenal said. You do not hoard your knowledge. You offer to teach anyone who wants to learn. That terrifies some species because they are not used to sharing, but it also offers an opportunity. What opportunity, Commander? The opportunity to learn from each other. For millennia, each species has been isolated in their combat traditions. We perfected our individual arts but never considered that other approaches might have value. You are showing us that collaboration could make all of us stronger. A month after the tournament, the Galactic Council made their decision. They invited Jiho to present humanity's case directly. He stood before representatives from hundreds of worlds, feeling very small and very aware of the enormous responsibility on his shoulders. Honored representatives, he began, his voice steady despite his nervousness. I am not a soldier. I am not a diplomat. I am just a student who loves martial arts. I came to the academy because I wanted to understand how different species approach combat. I wanted to learn from you. He walked slowly as he spoke, making eye contact with different representatives. When I saw Krathian striking, I recognized principles from human Muay Thai and karate. When I watched Relmith grappling, I saw similarities to human judo and sambo. When I studied Silth flexibility techniques, I thought of human capoeira. This does not mean our arts are superior. It means they are related. It means all species discovered similar truths about combat because those truths are universal. A crystalline representative spoke up. But you defeated our best warriors. That suggests human arts are superior. No, Jiho said firmly. It suggests that learning multiple perspectives gives you adaptability. If I had studied only one human martial art, I would not have succeeded. But I studied many, which taught me to see patterns and connections. That is not human superiority. That is the value of diverse knowledge. Another representative, this one Agorath, asked, What do you want from the council? What does humanity want? We want to learn, Jiho said simply. We want to share. We want to train alongside other species, teach each other, and discover what we can create together. Humans spent thousands of years fighting ourselves. We learned that war creates only suffering. Shared knowledge creates growth. We do not want to dominate the galaxy. We want to contribute to it. The council chambers were silent for a long moment. Then a Krathian representative stood. It was not Vexenal, but another elder warrior. I propose we establish an exchange program, the Krathian said. Allow humans to study at combat academies across the galaxy. In return, humans will teach their martial arts to any species that wishes to learn. We transform this potential conflict into mutual education. The proposal was debated for hours. Some representatives supported it immediately. Others worried about security implications. Eventually, a compromise was reached. Earth would be invited to participate in a galactic martial arts exchange program. Humans could attend alien academies. Aliens could visit Earth to study human martial arts. All knowledge would be shared openly, with the understanding that combat arts were tools that could be used for defense or aggression depending on the user's character. Jiho was asked to help establish the program. He accepted, though he felt overwhelmed by the responsibility. Other humans began arriving at Station Terminus. Dayan and Bio became his assistants. Together, they created the first curriculum for interspecies martial arts training. 1 year later, the Galactic Martial Arts Institute opened on Station Terminus. Students from dozens of species trained together in massive halls. Humans taught taekwondo and boxing. Krathians taught their power striking. Relnath taught their grappling. Sylph taught their flexibility techniques. Every species contributed their knowledge. Jiho walked through the training halls, watching a Vrelnath student help a human perfect a four-armed technique using creative leg positioning. Watching a Krathian and a human spar together, exchanging techniques and laughing when something worked unexpectedly. Watching species that had never interacted, before discovering they had more in common than they thought. Takmar found Jiho watching from a balcony. The big Vrelnath had become one of his closest friends over the past year. "You did it," Takmar said. "You changed everything." "Not me. We did this together." "But you started it." "By being yourself?" "By showing the galaxy that strength does not require arrogance. That skill does not require domination. That the most dangerous fighter can also be the gentlest teacher." Jiho smiled slightly. "My grandfather would have been proud. He always said that martial arts were not about fighting. They were about understanding yourself and others. Understanding your body, your limits, your strengths. Understanding that everyone you face is also a person trying to survive and improve. The galaxy is learning that lesson now," Takmar said below them. A Gorath instructor was teaching human students how to generate power despite their smaller size. The humans were teaching the Gorath about leverage and efficiency. Both sides were learning. Both sides were improving. Dayan joined them on the balcony. The council just approved funding for 10 more institutes across the galaxy. They want one on every major station and planet. They are calling this the greatest peaceful initiative in galactic history. All because a timid student won some fights, Bael added, arriving behind her. "I am not timid," Jiho said quietly. "I just prefer peace to violence." "That is what makes you different," Dayan said. "Most warriors want to prove they are the strongest. You want to prove that strength can be used for teaching instead of dominating." Jiho looked out at the training halls. Hundreds of students from across the galaxy, learning together, teaching each other, discovering that their differences made them stronger rather than weaker. This was what his grandfather had tried to teach him. That every martial art was just a different language for the same conversation. That understanding those languages meant you could speak to anyone. "Do you think humanity will become a warrior race?" Bio asked. "Now that we have proven our combat abilities?" Jiho thought about it carefully. "I think humanity will become whatever we choose to become. We have the knowledge to be dangerous. We also have the choice to be teachers. Every species has that choice. Power can destroy or build. We decide which." Far below, a human student helped a Krathian perfect a judo throw. The Krathian then showed the human how to add Krathian power striking to the technique. They laughed together when the combination worked perfectly. Two species that had never met before, working together, creating something neither could have developed alone. That night, Jiho stood alone in an empty training room. He moved through forms, blending Korean taekwondo with Krathian striking, adding Vrelnath grappling principles and Sylph flexibility. The movements flowed together naturally, creating something new. Something that belonged to all species. He finished the form and stood quietly, breathing slowly, centered and calm. Outside the windows, stars filled the darkness of space. Earth was out there somewhere. His family was out there. They were probably wondering what he was doing, if he was safe. If he had accomplished what he set out to do. He had come to the academy to learn. He had learned more than he imagined possible. Not just about alien combat arts, but about what it meant to bridge differences. What it meant to turn potential conflict into collaboration. What it meant to be strong enough to choose peace. The timid student had sparked a galactic change. But Jiho knew the truth. He had never been timid. He had simply understood that the greatest strength was not in defeating others, but in helping them become stronger. That true mastery was not about perfecting one answer, but about understanding that there were infinite questions and infinite approaches to answering them. The galaxy was learning that lesson now, and Jiho would continue teaching it, one student at a time, one technique at a time, one shared moment of understanding at a time, because that was what warriors truly did. Not conquer, not dominate, but protect, teach, and build bridges between those who thought they had nothing in common.